Hello, my steaks and chops. It's Carla, and I am here today with a bunch of steaks and a bunch of lettuce because I am gonna make steaks and a Caesar. I know, steak and a Caesar doesn't sound that original, and frankly, it's not. Lots of people have a steak and a Caesar, and that's the whole point. My children, when it is time for like you just had a school concert and we're gonna celebrate, or you just got home from sleepaway camp, what is the first dinner you wanna have? 9 times out of 10, those guys are asking for steak and a Caesar because it's a classic, because it's delicious, and because I know how to cook a steak and they know that. Here's the plot twist. I was out visiting my friends Roddy and Joey in Provincetown, and we were gonna have steak and salad for dinner. And when we were getting ready to make dinner, Joey, who is a great cook, friend of the channel, has watched all the vids, is on the direct hotline, direct dial to CLM whenever he has a cooking question. He was like, Carla, will you make the steaks? It would be so fun to watch you make them. And I was like, oh, geez, we don't have to do that. Like, you're a great cook and Roddy's a great cook and I'm sure you can make a great steak. And Joey was like, no, really, because sometimes when we make the steaks, I follow all of your instructions to the T. We do everything exactly the same. And like, they never get as darkly seared as yours, or sometimes they overcook and we can't really figure it out. But if we could watch you do it and ask you questions while we go. So I was like, okay, fine. You forced me. Of course, like, this was, days before my birthday. So we were in peak Leo season and I was happy to take the stage. So we get the stuff, we get out the cast iron skillet and get the thing. And Roddy says, yeah, I always do it exactly the way you say, turning it back and forth every minute and a half, frequent turning method. And I was like, great, sure, of course, but are those the steaks that we're making? Because what we had was steaks like these. We didn't have 1.5 inch thick steaks, which is what I use in my other frequent turning steak recipes. Cold sliced steak with arugula salad, that has a 1.5 inch thick strip steak, and I get into frequent turning. But what we were having that night, and they were perfectly delicious, nothing wrong with them, we were having this kind of steak, which is more typical of like what you might find already pre-cut in the butcher area. Maybe they're already in their little plastic wrapped trays and they're ready to go. You're not going up to the butcher counter and asking someone to cut something to a certain thickness for you. You're grabbing a steak and you're leaving. And that's like super normal, super typical, and can still be super delicious. But you can't really do frequent turning method on a steak that is maybe 3/4 of an inch thick, because by the time you turn it back and forth enough to build up that sear, it's going to be overcooked in the center. So I immediately saw the challenge and realized, as I do in my normal life, this is really great because this is content. This is something I haven't really thought about, and now we're going to do it. We've seasoned the steak. So this part is the same as usual. This is going to feed 4 to 6 people, I would say. This is about 2 pounds of meat. This is a New York strip, no bone. Bones can make it difficult to get a flat side and a sear because the bone is always gonna stay bone thickness, but the meat as it cooks shrinks and curls. So then you have a bone that is higher than the surface of the meat and the browning is harder. So you're better off with something with no bone. By the way, Joey owns a shop in Provincetown called The Old Baby, and it is the cutest shop you ever saw in your life, and he designs and makes his own merch and t-shirts and hats and all these things. And this is the t-shirt I picked up there. Looking for L'amour at Boy Beach. I think that's where boys go to find boys, but no discrimination here. I'll go look for a boy at Boy Beach too. I can do whatever I want. Big thank you to DoorDash for sponsoring this episode. DoorDash is way more than a food delivery app. It can also be a grocery trip saver and help you eliminate time running errands. Grocery shopping through the DoorDash app is so easy. I can choose from my local favorite stores to pantry staples to gifts and even to pet supplies, all in one app. I love that I can customize, schedule, substitute, and track my order. And on days like today, when I'm shooting, if by some chance we miss an ingredient or something doesn't show up, I can use the DoorDash app in the day and quickly schedule whatever it is that we're missing. Use code Carla50 to get 50% off up to $10 when you spend $15 or more at convenience, grocery, or select retail stores. The link is in the description. I changed up the way that I'm doing the Caesar. It is bizarre and ridiculous of me to make another Caesar dressing when I myself have published the greatest Caesar of all time, which is not my recipe, it's the one from Leo Sourdough. Go watch the grilled chicken Caesar wrap. It's perfect, it's iconic, it's infallible. It's not what I'm gonna make today. So in order to give me a reason to exist and to make up my own Caesar dressing, I took some liberties, we've made some tweaks, and actually made something that is really easy and really fast. So I'm gonna start with chovies, because every Caesar salad must have a chovy. 2 chovies. You like it more chovy? Add another chovy. My older child, who's working in a restaurant this summer, this is the thing. This is the thing about being my age and having been cooking for, I can't even admit how many years it's been, because it's like insane. And then you learn something new, which is obvious, but I never really thought about it, that anchovies have the ability to emulsify ingredients. So similar to like egg yolk or shallots was another one, or mustard, the anchovy itself is going to help with emulsification. Even though this is going to get blended, I'm going to grate the garlic, because garlic has a tendency to bounce around in the blades and not get all the way blended down, and then you bite into like a chunk and it's not spread out through the dressing, and nobody really wants that. If you don't have a microplane, you could use a garlic press, which a lot of people have. You could use a mortar and pestle, or you could finely chop the garlic and then kind of use the edge of your knife to push it back and forth against your cutting board with a little kosher salt and just work it until it becomes a garlic paste. And if you want it really garlicky, you know what to do. So we don't have an egg. The other thing that we don't have in this Caesar, which maybe I can't even call it a Caesar, I have to use some kind of qualifier. No lemon juice. There is a little lemon later, but it's not in the dressing. This is 3 tablespoons of water, which is needed so that the dressing isn't too thick. One of the things I wanted to do when I set out to make this recipe was not have to do the whisking and the slowly drizzling in of the oil. And I had seen some stuff online that made me think that you can just blend it with everything together with a hand blender and it will come together. And so I did that and it worked, and that's what is the little time-saving tip that's happening today. Because we have like our thinner supermarket steaks, so maybe we're doing like a more throw-it-together Caesar where we don't have to go buy a lemon if we don't have one. That was white distilled vinegar. Feel free to use rice vinegar or a white wine vinegar or white balsamic. I know, it's crazy, but I did say that. The water is there so that things don't get too thick. I'm adding half a cup of veg oil, and there is a little olive oil in the dressing as well. This is something that I do a lot of times with my Caesars, is it's mostly vegetable oil and a little bit of olive oil, because 100% olive oil can just be really cloying. It can be like very heavy on the palate, kind of compete with the parm. It's too much, but you want a little. Grated parm, we just did this in the blender, but any grating of parm. And salt and peps, per usual. Okay, so normally in a lot of Caesar instruction, right, you would have the vinegar, the garlic, the anchovy, you would whisk all of that together and then slowly drizzle in the oil until you make that emulsification. That trips people up a lot. I'm using my trusty hand blender. You could dump this all into your Ninja. You could put this in a regular blender jar or like a mini chop, and it would all be the same. She's emulsified. That's it. Now I have a couple tablespoons of olive oil. So the parm and everything is already in here. This is emulsified. You can see it's creamy. The oil and the water have completely come together. I'm just gonna add the olive oil. I'm not gonna do it while the motor's running, and just blitz that in until it's combined. That's it. Isn't that awesome? So the flavor is a little different. The first batch I did had just a ton of lemon juice in it. And I just wanted to simplify and make it very pantry. What I'm into about it, and it's different from other Caesars, which is why I decided that it was allowed to exist. It tastes more like what you would get out of bottle, like the Newman's Own Caesar. Remember when that was on the market and it was like a real treat to buy bottled salad dressing? And that Newman's, I don't know if it still tastes the same, but it was revelatory. And so this to me, it has that nostalgic like salad bar, jar of prepared salad dressing that tastes really, really good. It's just different than a normal Caesar. It also is like parm forward. This is now extremely shelf stable. It does not have a raw egg in it, so everybody in the family can enjoy. You didn't have to buy a lemon or use your last lemon. The flavor of the white vinegar is just like super clean, and I love it. Very happy with the dressing. This crouton method is coming directly from Giant Crouton Salad of the Sea from the Canned Tuna 3 Ways video. A square crouton to me is missing out on thick parts, thin parts, shaggy parts, pointy parts. So this is why we tear our croutons. It's a nice crusty bread. It could be day old, it could be today. This was today's, so it's gonna have a little moisture that's gonna need to cook off in the toaster. So instead of being on like the 16-minute end of the range, it might be 18 to 20 because we have to wait for that water to get driven off before the browning really happens. And then it's just a tablespoon of oil. So this was like 3 ounces of bread, which is totally random. Mixed between 4 and 5 cups of torn croutons. And then to that, you're just adding a tablespoon of oil. You could use olive oil, you could use vegetable oil, you could use peanut oil, avocado oil. 350, tablespoon of oil. You got your shaggy croutons, you're tossing, but this is key. You're also doing some pressing and some squeezing because the bread is a sponge and it needs to absorb it. We don't want oil just on the outer edges. We want oil saturating, and we want that bread to kind of fry, and that's what's gonna give it kind of that great crouton texture that's not just like a piece of toast that you tore into pieces. We're moisturized. And some kosher salt. Now I'm glowing. And I use the toaster oven for this all the time. This is super scalable and easy, so if you want to go out and make extra crouton, please feel free. There's no trick. It's just easy to memorize and remember. I really like cast iron for my steaks. Cast iron is a little slow to heat up, but once it is hot, it will retain the heat incredibly well. So I've got it set. It's already been on the heat for a couple of minutes. Really want it to be nice and hot when it goes in the pan. So the key with the thinner steak is that we have less time. A thinner steak, you're fighting the clock here. So we're going to be in that situation where eventually we have to make a decision about whether I'm going to be pleased with the browning or I'm going to be pleased with my cook time. Hopefully we're going to nail both, but this is a little bit more like kill it on the first side than anything else. So, you know, kill it from the first side from other famous chicken videos. We will link those, but that's kind of where we're going. We're going to really lean into getting the first side extremely brown and seared and crisp before I turn it. This is not a measured amount, but we need enough oil in the pan to completely cover the surface of the pan without any bald spots, is what I like to say. So when I did this, Joey immediately said, oh, that's more oil than I would have added. The reason I'm a little more generous with the oil in this thinner steak is because we're not having all that time for the intermuscular fat to melt and for that to become the fat that the steak is frying in. Because we don't have as much time, we have to jumpstart that. Hot pan, shimmering oil, generous amount. If you put the steak in the pan and you don't hear a sizzle, pick it right back out and put it on the tray. Like, don't think that you can put it down and wait for time to catch up. You're gonna have a gray, disappointing steak. And I don't want that for you. Aww. Other guy. going in. Okay, so now that these two steaks have gone in here, immediately the pan is gonna cool down. So I'm gonna nudge the heat up. We're a little bit above medium high. If you have a clock on your stove or your phone is nearby, just get a mental check on what time it is, but I don't really want you to start a timer. This is driven so much more from visual cue and active cooking than it is a freaking stop clock. I'm also not gonna use the pressy downy because only I have one of those, but I am gonna use a spatula to make sure that the steak is making good contact with the pan. It's going to be more about the way that I think and what I'm looking for when I do a skin on chicken thigh or even a chicken breast. And that's gonna be paying attention to where the edge of the steak is hitting the pan, because it's gonna brown first on the very edge because it's completely exposed, it's the most hot. You wanna turn not when that starts to look golden brown, but that's gonna be really, really, really dark. And that will mean that the inner part of the steak is the brown that we want. You also can just like pick this up and look at it and put it back down. In fact, it's not a bad idea to do that just to make sure that you don't have like a steam pocket underneath. So lifting the edge of the steak, let that oil run underneath, put it back down. I saw that there were some gray spots where maybe the steak wasn't touching everywhere. I'm pushing it down again. Same thing on this side. The edge is looking nice. Making sure the fat is flowing underneath and lay it back down. Then I just want to push down again. There's no rule that says you can't press a steak down multiple times on the first side. It's not going to squeeze all the juice out. Another thing you can start to look for is the fatty side here. You're going to start to see the fat become translucent, opposite of opaque. It's going to get shiny and the fat's going to start to render. You're sort of seeing and observing and absorbing that the heat is moving from the surface of the pan up. And we want to hit that medium rare in the middle. If medium rare is how you like your steak, that's going to be around 120 degrees internal. It's going to go kind of fast. Okay. I wish and I want for this color everywhere. And I just have this patch here where it's gone a little concave. I'm gonna keep cooking it for another second, knowing that we're playing a game now. This was like, is it more important to you to have a brown steak or a medium rare steak? I want both, but that's the dance. Same with this guy. The edge of the fat puckered up a little bit. It created like a little pocket or a little shallow area there. Gonna turn it back down and just press. So 1 or 2 minutes longer. Yeah, that looks really good. But I went for it. So you can see like this is all medium rare. Don't even try to get the color on the second side. You're never gonna get that unless you want a shoe leather steak. Very happy. Remember that fat is a cooking medium. It's not just a flavoring or an addition. It is filling in the gaps between the surface of the pan and the edge of the meat. Most of it's gonna stay in the pan. Looks epic and perfect. That's okay. Presentation side. But I do wanna take the temp on these because this was actually another moment. Joey got out his thermometer. This is not to like clown Joey at all, but he went to take the temperature from the center and he went in like that. And right away was like, ooh, we overshot it. This is 130. But I, the confident Leo that I am, I was like, hold on. You have to go the long way if you want to get to the center. If you go this way, you're really just going to get either the top edge or the bottom edge where it's much hotter. So going in from the side to the center, and it's even hotter. Hold on. Okay, that one's 135. Okay, now we know. So I played the game and we're gonna see. These might be more like medium rare medium. Hot croutons, little pepper. If you wanted to use an Aleppo pepper or a little bit of chili flake, you could do that too. And take it in a little bit of a spicy crouton. way. And before I add them, I will dress my lettuces. So I've got a mix of romaine and red leaf. You can do whatever. I mean, the Leo Caesar has radicchio in it. You could use all romaine. You could use little gems. You could do whatever's in the fridge. Honestly, endive is fantastic with Caesar. But I like something that is not like chopped up too fine, because this is all gonna end up on the same plate together. So we're fork and knifing our salad along with our steak. So I'm just gonna toss to coat. I really should be using my hands, but just washed and dried them so many times today. Little lemon. Okay, so this is just gonna like freshen everything up, give it a little bit more of that like classic, not out of a bottle Caesar flavor, and make sure everything is like nicely coated. Now adding the croutons and the crumbs. Gorgeous. A little pepper, a little salt. Now we're gonna cut into the steaks. You know, the thing is, we all are learning so much today. And what we might be learning is that Carla might have overcooked the steaks. I think that's just great, because then we'll all just know that shit happens and you're still gonna eat dinner. Vaguely looking for the grain, mostly just in a terror. All right, not bad. They're closer to medium, obviously, but they're pink. I can live with that. Okay, it's fine. It's fine. It's a tiny bit over. Okay, so I did the fatal error of I leaned into the sear and I favored the sear over the internal temp. There's nothing else different I could have done, except maybe when it still had some gray patches and I wasn't fully satisfied. I'm gonna keep cooking it for another second. Is it more important to you to have a brown steak or a medium rare steak?
A brown steak or medium rare steak?
That was when I needed to pull the steak. But this is like very much 100% dealable and acceptable. I'm just gonna go with, some people like their steaks medium to medium rare. That's fine. It's not rare. That's a fact. Juicy Lucy. It's great. It's great. It's great. It's great. Stars, they're just like us. It's very good. I think a lot of people would be very happy with this. I have to stop being so critical. That's what I have to do. That's really the key. This guy is nice. Of course, the steak jus. I'm gonna use my special Bonnie's steak knife, and they're gonna taste delicious. There's always another steak, you know? Listen, sometimes stuff comes out perfect and sometimes it comes out like almost perfect. And like, it's all good. You're perfect. The dressing's perfect. Don't have to worry about that.
How high should the grill be, temperature-wise?
Medium, that's too high. Like
Okay.
375, I would say.
Okay,
Okay.
good to know. And should we leave those strings on?
Yeah. So let me see them again. Yeah, those look sick. Those are ribeyes. Oh yeah. Sicko.
So what do we do?
Like have a rim sheet tray nearby. Pick the steak up, move it, let the flare up die down, put it back on.
But should we close it while it's cooking?
No, not unless you're having a flare up.
Okay. We appreciate you and love you.
I can't believe you're steaking when I just steaked.
Is butter necessary?
No. We staked so hard, and it inspired. I need the photos that you took that night because we're gonna put them into the video.
Love it. So we should put this over here. All right.
Okay.
Love you. Talk to you later.
If anything comes up, hotline is open.